Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Son of the Morning Comics channel, where today we're going to be reviewing Doctor Doom number 6. Now, Doctor Doom this is certainly not the first Doctor Doom series that's ever invented, but it is something that I am thoroughly enjoying. I'm really liking the writing by Christopher Cantwell and the art by Salvador Larroca. I think it's been really, really good. And I want to kind of equate this Doctor Doom series to the Savage Avengers series, which I'm also a big fan of. Now, I've been asked by some people why I don't cover things like the Amazing Spider-Man or the regular Avengers series, or, you know, any of the sort of A-Team Marvel properties. Now, in terms of Spider-Man, for me, I really like the old Spider-Man, the vintage Spider-Man, but something about the way that Spider-Man has been illustrated in the last many, many years I just find a little bit off-putting. I believe that Nick Spencer is doing the current run of Amazing Spider-Man. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I do know that for several years previous, it was being written by Dan Slott, and I really didn't like the stories that he was putting out there. And of course, Amazing Spider-Man is one of those iconic titles that is just gonna sell no matter what. Now, those numbers have seemed to have dropped, but your average Amazing Spider-Man comic is still pulling in, or at least distributing, about 55 to 60,000 units, which is pretty good. Now, I think that Dan Slott was kind of resting on his laurels there, and as he exited the project and started working on Iron Man, I think, I know, we've seen a very sharp decline in his sales. Now, I would say that might have partially something to do with his behavior on social media. I have never contacted Dan Slott in my life. I've never had any interactions with him, and then one day I found myself blocked because he I guess he was trying to eliminate all of the Trump supporters. Now, A, I'm a Canadian. B, I'm a Canadian leftist. And I found this to be very offensive to me personally. As I mentioned in a tweet, I have been voting for about 20 years now. The party that I vote for, I don't expect Americans to understand Canadian politics in the same way they do with U.S. politics, but we don't run on a two-party system here. We have basically 4 parties. The first party, the most left-wing party, would be the Bloc de Québécois. Of course, they only operate in the province of Quebec. Other than that, we have the Progressive Conservative Party. Progressive means something very different in Canada than it does in the States currently. And then we have our ruling government, the Liberal Party, led by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Now, I have always voted, and the Liberal Party is a left-wing party. Now, I've always voted to the left of the Liberal Party for NDP or the New Democratic Party. They are definitely the most left-wing party in the land with the most socialist leanings that you're gonna find in Canada. So I found it very disturbing that someone such as myself was caught up in this ridiculous blockchain from Dan Slott, and I found that absolutely ridiculous. Now, for me, being a liberal, being on that side of the political spectrum, I felt very specifically offended by what he did there. Now, you know, you can't blame people for the sins of their fathers, but I can certainly blame Dan Slott for his slight to me and to every other centrist or liberal that he blocked in his Twitter tirade. Now, because of which I can honestly tell you that I will never purchase another comic that Dan Slott has anything to do with, because, you know, political discrimination is disgusting. In Canada, we don't practice political discrimination. And so I just found that whole thing sickening. And that's about enough of that. But we won't go into that any further. I just needed to rant about that for a second. If you don't want to hear about my rant there, fast forward to 6:47 of the video, and that's when we'll start talking about Doctor Doom issue number 6. An issue that I quite liked. It was a little bit different than the issues so far, so let's get into it. Now, we know that Doctor Doom's country, Latveria, had shot missiles up to some project in the moon, which had caused a black hole that's threatening to consume the Earth. Doctor Doom didn't actually have anything to do with this, but he is, of course, the prime suspect. He surrenders himself, but then, being Doctor Doom, he escapes and seeks refuge and starts to get up to some no good. So, in the last issue, we had Doctor Doom meet up with Kang the Conqueror. Now, it's a very sort of... I find this comic to be very humorous, and I don't mind the odd comic relief in a series like this. They're talking about how they might be related. They are stowed away on a train car, and this guy here tries to bunk up with them, and they get rid of him promptly, so to speak. Now, as you can see him flying from the train. So, Doom and Kang are camping out, and this I find very interesting here, because Doom remarks that he's heard rumors that Kang is in fact Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards' father, and Kang's response is that he'd heard that too, but that he looks nothing like me. And then Doom responds, "Neither do I." And then Kang wants to know what he means, and he says, "I look nothing like you too." At which point Kang responds he's not his father. Doom knows this, but he said, "Hey, you never know. I might be your father." And I just think it's an interesting interplay between the two. They are worried about mercenaries, so they have to travel in secret. Now, this I find very funny. They're walking through the desert and they get accosted by these rednecks who start making fun of their appearance. They call Kang Fancy Cleopatra, and they call Dr. Doom Steely Dan. Obviously, that's not going to go over well with these very powerful guys over here. Really like the illustration here. I actually really like the art in this whole book, especially too when you're looking at, you know, people that don't have traditionally human faces, but we're still able to see some facial expressions coming out of them. So they get on this boat, and they're headed for their destination. There's just some more babble here between the two of them. They're talking about who's gonna get who first. They are currently acting as allies, but they both sort of realize that the time is gonna come when they're gonna try to kill each other. Now, Kang's curious as to what's going on, why they're in the middle of the desert in Texas, and Doom remarks that he's got a plan, he's got an ace in the hole. And so, you know, Doom talks about Doom wants to reclaim Latveria, and he's saying he's never gonna be vulnerable again, and that he's more than happy to kill Kang, which brings Kang to a former question: how does one destroy the invincible? So it's a very interesting interplay between Kang and Doom. Did I forget something here? Oh yeah, I forgot to say, in this illustration here, after the rednecks are bugging them, Doom just blows them up. So that's pretty cool. Now, so here we have Doom, and he's trying to figure out how to solve this black hole problem. And I'm not going to do any justice to it trying to summarize it, so I'll read these panels for you. Kang says perhaps an antimatter bomb could cancel out the Antillans' matter, and Doom responds, antimatter is mass, mass plus mass is mass, the black hole will only grow. Kang responds, over 7 billion years, and then Doom remarks, negative energy, one could drain antiparticles from the hole and it would dissipate. But what if you could generate several billions years worth of negative energy in an instant? And then we have an explosion. Which of course is coming from the mercenaries, who are coming to get Doom because he is still considered to be a war criminal. Of course, between the two of Doom and Kang, they're very easily able to lay waste to the mercenaries who have come for them, and they are left cowering in fear. Kang notes that he sees a plane with more intruders. Doom responds that that's his ace in the hole. So, as we flip the page here, we have this guy here who is delivering this package from the plane to Doom, and it is a package containing the ultimate nullifier. Now, if you've ever read some Fantastic Four classic books, you'll know that Reed Richards uses the ultimate nullifier to ultimately save the Earth from Galactus eating it. So, Doom's got his equipment, they've got their horses, and now he's headed on his quest back to Latveria to regain power. At which point, Kang decides he needs the ultimate nullifier and decides that he's gonna assassinate Doom. Unfortunately, that doesn't work, and Doom attacks Kang, and, Kang remarks, You're well if unchecked. Ha! How do you destroy something that's invincible? I will miss our familiarity, perhaps though some twist of time. Through some twist of time, we are brothers. And Doom remarks, "Goodbye, Kang." And then Doom, of course, takes off in this beautiful 2-page spread of him riding a horse. He then arrives back in Mexico City, where, believe it or not, he is going to contact Reed Richards. Of course, at this point in time, Reed Richards thinks that Dr. Doom is responsible for the black hole that threatens the Earth. Now, what Doom's plan is for Reed to send the Blue Marvel inside the black hole. Reed's response is an antimatter collision will just create more mass. And then Doom responds, "Listen, you idiot. Send him past the event horizon. He can generate a massive amount of negative energy to dissipate the hole. I know he's survived a nuclear explosion, so there's a chance the singularity won't incinerate him." And so we don't know if they're going to reciprocate, because this is where this issue ends. But I think it's interesting that we know at the beginning of the story that Dr. Doom was innocent in the terrorist attack. He started to do some bad things, but ultimately in this series, he's wanting to save the Earth. So this looks like it's to be the next cover of issue number 7. Very cool cover. Can't comment enough about how awesome the cover art has been in this series. And like I said, really loving this series, really liking some of these Marvel series that aren't your sort of A-list properties. I'm not a big fan of Amazing Spider-Man. Not really a fan of the Spider-Man comics because there's like 18 of them. And, you know, where do you even start with that? So, I have found some joy in these really well-written series like Doctor Doom and the Savage Avengers, and I find myself at the end of each issue wanting to read more. And that's ultimately the goal of the comic book industry. So, this has been Dr. Doom number 6. Looking forward to Dr. Doom number 7. Thank you for joining me here on the Son of the Morning Comics channel. If you like this content, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, leave some comments. All that stuff helps. And if you'd like to have some further dialogue with me as well, more than happy to engage in it. The Twitter handle is @sonofthemorning7. So thank you for joining me, and we will talk to you when we film the next video.